On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, after 251 days, we finally saw the Raptors' full starting lineup with Brandon Ingram. Let's hope it doesn't take 251 days for them to iron out the kinks.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, October the 16th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join, to become part of our listener family. Yes, we fight sometimes, but it's all out of love, and it's a great time to join our listener family as the season's drawing near. 6 days until the season opener next Wednesday in Atlanta. Good times all around. We'd love to see you become part of the listener family on the Discord. Please go do that. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we're off and running here on your Thursday edition of the show, talking about a 110-108 Boston Celtics win over the Toronto Raptors in the Raptors' fifth preseason game. Still one more of these damn things? All right, cool. And of course, the big ticket item for this game, the thing I was watching for, the thing I went back and rewatched multiple times, was the first look at the Toronto Raptors starting five. Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jakob. We will talk all about my first look impressions of those guys as a unit. We'll also get into Scottie Barnes, who still can't make a shot. Are we worried yet? I'm still not there, but certainly it would be nice if he had better than a 20% field goal percentage through the preseason. We got the good, the bad, and the Hmmm, as we usually do after a game as well, coming up later. But let's talk about the starters, shall we? Look, it was hotly anticipated. I've been waiting for it all preseason long. It's a shame this will probably go down as the only game where we get to see the starters play in the preseason, but we did finally get some little tasty morsels of tape on this five-man unit. And look, as you might expect for a group of five players playing together for the first time on a basketball floor in a competitive game, semi-competitive game, we saw some kinks that need to be ironed out. It wasn't perfect. In particular, their first stretch together where they lost, I believe, 19-7 in about 5 minutes to the Celtics starters was not great. It was pretty grim. The offense looked sticky. It looked just out of sync. It was, what you'd expect with a bunch of guys still figuring each other out. When am I setting my screen? When am I making my move? The sort of cogs of the machine very much not greased up just yet. Still kind of clunky and, fits and starts to get anything off in the offense. That improved as the game went along, as we will get to. Defensively, again, you'd expect a lot of what you saw early on in this game from the five-man unit playing defense for the first time together. Missed rotations, miscommunications on, was that a switch? Was that not a switch? Who's getting the guy in the corner? Who's picking up this guy in transition? It was not a great stretch, but things got a little bit better as the game went along. And I do think there was plenty from what the starters did in this game that should give you some hope that this lineup can be a lineup that wins minutes when they play together this year. I don't think this is going to be the Raptors' best lineup. I don't think this is going to be a lineup that totally blitzes other teams, but I do think they have enough offensive talent across the board, enough advantage creation, enough sort of complementary skill sets. Even though it's not a great fitting group of five guys, there's enough here in terms of skills that gel with one another that I think they can scratch out some positive minutes on the floor and then let their in-between lineups where they have 2 and 3 starters mixed with other bench guys who kind of accentuate the skills of the starters. Those ones can be the ones that really run the show in, late first quarters, early seconds, start of fourth quarters, that type of thing before the starters come back in. And again, I don't think they're going to be totally run off the floor like they were in that first stretch. I think there's going to be some competent stuff. They played 36 possessions together in this game. And a fun new tool I've got to play with this year is Synergy, baby, which means I get to go back and watch all this stuff multiple times. And so I did that this morning, preparing for the show. I went back and watched all 36 possessions played by the starters across 3 stints together. The start of the first quarter, late in the second quarter, start of the third quarter. Your typical pockets where your starters are going to play. 3 about 4 or 5 minute stretches where they got on the floor together. Like I said, first one, really not good. Minus 12 in their first stretch of 5 minutes. I talked about it. Gummy offense, waiting around for the next move in the sequence, slow starting possessions, just a lot of general clunk out there, and they lose 19-7. Defensively, looked totally disconnected. Looked like there was just like gaping holes for the drivers of the Celtics to go and attack. Missed rotations, like I talked about. Not a ton of backline rim protection because guys were just out of position. It wasn't great. But then, again, as things progressed, we saw a lot more in terms of encouraging signs from the starters. They were +2 in their second stretch at the end of the second quarter. And in there, you saw some really good-looking sequences of offense where all 5 guys were involved. 34 seconds left in the second quarter. There was one sequence where you have Immanuel Quickley pitches it to RJ Barrett, who works right into a handoff with Scottie Barnes. He swings it back up to IQ. He goes right into a pick and roll with Jakob immediately. From that, you have a handoff that IQ initiates with Brandon Ingram. Ingram takes a screen. He drives, and then once he gets in the paint, he draws 2-3 defenders. He finds Scottie Barnes on the 45, and Scottie, to his credit, catches it on the move with already some downhill momentum. His guy's been helping off of him. He's kind of already meeting the ball as he runs towards it. He gets into the deep paint. He drops it down to Jakob. He ends up getting blocked under the basket. Ingram gets an offensive rebound and gets blocked. But like that sequence there was like, oh, okay. Like these guys can all do something within a 24-second shot clock to help create something to moving towards the rim. And I just think there's like going to be a lot of opportunity. I've talked about this, the sort of layering of advantages. That's what this lineup's bread and butter is going to be. You have 4 guys in Quickley, Barrett, Barnes, and Ingram, who on their own are not like incredible individual creators. They're not running heliocentric offense. They're not themselves going to be the fulcrum of a good offense. But in concert with one another, each of them can do something with the ball in their hands. Each of them can play 0.5 basketball, make the next decision in the sequence, and take one advantage, layer it onto another, and all of a sudden you're working and you have a really good look that you've created over the course of the life of a shot clock. And look, sometimes that's not going to work. Sometimes teams are going to sniff it out. Maybe they'll switch pretty aggressively. You won't get the matchups you want, and then you have to kind of bail yourself out with a Brandon Ingram ISO or something like that. But that's okay because you have Brandon Ingram, one of the best ISO players there is, to be that bailout guy, which they just haven't had in the past when the machine hasn't produced good looks over the course of a full shot clock. And so, yeah, they were +2 in that second quarter stretch. Looked a lot better on defense as well. And then you get into the third quarter, and man, they were moving in this stretch. They were really like intentional about running and getting the ball up the floor. You had a couple really just like quick semi-transition buckets. In particular, Immanuel Quickley had a really nice one, just kind of driving on a still soft, not set defense and finishing in the lane. And then for me, I think there was a couple of really pretty sequences where you saw Scottie Barnes kind of find what his playmaking role is going to be within this team. And I think it only works if you have Brandon Ingram willing to be a spot-up guy. But lo and behold, it seems like Brandon Ingram is very willing to be a spot-up guy right now. And man, is he devastating. There was a sequence where Scottie found a mismatch, I think on Derek White. Got deep position, early work, and most of Scottie's best offense in this game, as we'll talk about later, came from just doing work early, right? Getting down the floor first, finding a small to go and seal, and then you get the ball into him, and either he's able to score or he draws all kinds of panic from the defense, and that gets the sequence flowing. You know, on this possession, you had Scottie find the mismatch on White. He draws 2 really quickly. He kicks up to IQ on the wing. IQ then finds a slicing RJ cutting towards the rim. RJ gets walled off by help. He whips a pass over to Brandon Ingram, who's wide open because the help is collapsed in. A closeout comes at Ingram, and Ingram pumps, drives by, gets that easy finish in the lane through contact. A shot he's going to hit a ton of times. And I like that, to me, is how you weaponize Brandon Ingram in a sort of non-traditional way that teams have weaponized Brandon Ingram in the past, right? He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands for the first 10, 12 seconds of a sequence to still be really effective. There was another possession in the first quarter where he's standing in the corner. There's a nice swing around. Scottie finds him in the corner. A closeout comes. Ingram burns the guy, drives baseline, and scores. Like, that dude draws really aggressive closeouts because he's a really good shooter. And if he's a willing shooter, it's only going to make it that much more calamitous for the defense. Oh my God, we have to get out to Brandon Ingram because he's going to bury this on us. And that is going to open up his drive game. It's pretty basic, right? Like, if you're drawing hard closeouts, you're going to be able to exploit that and create paint touches, and paint touches equals good stuff for an offense. Look, again, it's all going to be a work in progress. They were -2 in their third stretch. Again, I thought it featured some of their best stretches of offense we've seen. I think of Immanuel Quickley shoots better than 1 of 8 from 3 in this game, which he will shoot better than 1 of 8 from 3 in most games. If he has a regular shooting night, I think they blitzed the Celtics in their minutes. He had a lot of really clean, wide open looks. Frankly, I thought he passed up a couple that he could have added to his total attempts as well. But all told, I thought Quickley played a pretty nice game within the flow of this offense. Didn't have to create all the time. There was a lot of Ingram. There was a lot of Barnes. A lot of it's kind of the Raptors machine doing its thing through handoffs and whatnot. But I thought Quickley found his spots well. I thought he did a pretty solid job creating paint touches, kicking out, doing the thing. And, he got to the line a bunch as well. What's a great way to mitigate not being an incredible interior finisher? Get to the line a bunch. He got to the line 8 times in this game, hit 7 of them. I thought it was a pretty solid game for Quickley in terms of what his role is going to be. That sort of on-off ball chameleon he's going to have to be to make it work with these starters. Again, not perfect, not like by any stretch of the imagination. I believe they ended up a -12 overall, all hung up on that first stretch of the first quarter, +2 in their second stretch, -2 in their third stretch. I do think, though, process-wise, lots to like here, especially in the offensive end. We'll see how the defense comes. The defense will be what it'll be, right? Like, I don't think they're going to be some shut down defensive unit. I think they're going to be better defensive lineups for the Raptors. But I also think, you have a bit of a floor with Barnes and Poeltl in there as your back line. The length of Ingram, I think, seems pretty helpful, just kind of being there with long arms. There's just being long and tall in basketball. It's a pretty helpful thing. And I think, it's all going to come down to the offense, right? It's going to sink or swim this lineup. And look, I'm hopeful that it can swim. I think it's got a pretty good shot at swimming. But of course, it's not going to swim if Scottie Barnes cannot shoot better than 20% from the field. It will sink at that point, sink precipitously, I would say. We're going to get into what's going on with Scottie. Why can't he hit anything? What was the shot chart like last night? It was a little bit better, I'll say. We'll get into that and why that is. We'll talk about just how unsustainably bad this has been and whether or not there's real reason for alarm after a 6 for 30 shooting clip for Scottie Barnes through 3 preseason games. My goodness. Try to say that 3 times fast. Anyway, more on Scottie coming up. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sportsbook in North America. And right now, NFL season's here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's pretty darn sweet. If you feel like you know what football team is going to win this weekend, maybe you think the New York Jets are going to keep on losing, just put some money down, $5 on the Jets to lose. And if they come through and lose, as they usually do, all of a sudden, you've got yourself $300 in bonus bets to go and throw around on the app. And again, it's not just football you can go play with. If you're a baseball fan, throw some money down on the Blue Jays hitting the over on home runs, apparently, because they just cannot stop hitting piss missiles against Seattle pitching, at least in T-Mobile Park. We'll see when they return back home, hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully game 6-7 situation. Maybe you want to throw some money down on some NBA futures, an awards pick, a title pick, whatever it might be. The Raptors over if you feel good about it, or the under if you don't feel so good. It's all there for you with those bonus bets that you can win with just one winning $5 bet. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. Back at it here on your Thursday edition of Locked On Raptors, talking about the 110-108 loss to the Boston Celtics last night in the 5th and penultimate preseason game for your Toronto Raptors. Cannot wait for the games to be real in 6 days' time. Speaking of which, in 6 days' time, a reminder, Last Supper Books in Hamilton, 148 James Street North, very accessible via transit if you're not in Hamilton. If you're in Hamilton, it's right downtown. Come hang out. We're doing a watch party at Last Supper Books with your pals over there. We're going to watch the game. We're going to do a book exchange. Bring a basketball book that you've read. Leave with one you haven't read. It's that simple. Pretty fun. We're also going to do some Q&A. I'll be around chatting, watching the game. Good stuff. Very much looking forward to it. I think a couple of my buddies from Pickup are going to come, so you can talk to them about my pickup game if you're interested in that as well. And so, come hang out. We would love to see the RSVP form is in the description of the podcast. Come to Last Supper Books next week, Wednesday, the 22nd, 7 p.m. doors. Can't wait. Okay, let's get back to it. Scottie Barnes, 3 of 13. Not great, Bob. It's like, I've been very, very staunch in my defense of Scottie Barnes in this preseason, mostly because it's the preseason and I don't care what the results are necessarily. But it's not been fantastic. You don't want to see a guy go 6 for 30 in the preseason. You don't want to see a guy have a 26.8 true shooting percentage. That's really bad. It's also unsustainably bad. Like, it's not going to stay this way forever. Having a 27.8 true shooting percentage is basically equivalent to a guy having an 80% true shooting percentage in the positive direction. Like, no one's holding up an 80% true shooting. No one's holding up a 26.8 true shooting. It's going to even out at some point, one would think. And if it doesn't, then yeah, the Raptors starters are going to be bad and Scottie Barnes' contract will be a disaster and the team won't be good. I just don't think we're going to see a guy put up literally the worst true shooting percentage maybe in the history of any organized professional basketball league. I would be pretty shocked if Scottie Barnes, a guy who has a history of not doing that, ends up doing that this year. So, yeah, the numbers are ugly. They're crooked. They're nasty. I don't think it's predictive of what we're actually going to see in the regular season, but there's still stuff that's got to be ironed out, obviously. I do think last night we saw a little bit of an improvement in terms of just the shot chart and the intentionality for Barnes, kind of building on the last game where he started off miserably in the first quarter, had a solid second quarter outing. I think there was some stuff in this game where it's like, okay, 7 of his 13 shots were in the paint. That's an improvement. That's more than half the shots he took were in the paint. Now, did he get kind of spooked by defenders all around him? Did he see tons of help? Did he just kind of duff a couple of would-be finishes? Absolutely he did. He can't be doing that in games where it matters, of course. You can't have a guy who is ostensibly one of your better play finishers finishing plays at a 20% clip that is going to sewer your entire offense. And none of the beautiful sequences of passing and movement and advantage creation that we saw from the starters will matter if Scottie Barnes is not finishing on those looks that he's getting. Again, I thought the process looked a little better in this one. The 3 he missed in the first quarter was a wide open corner 3. He's just going to have to take those. Sometimes, yeah, if he's that wide open, maybe you take it and you drive and you try to get some contact to the rim or something. Maybe you draw some help. You get an easy lay down to Jakob Poeltl or something like that. If it's really not going for him, if he gets 10, 20 games into the season and shooting like 5% from deep, then yeah, there's probably a bit of a change that's got to happen there. But for now, in the preseason, get those misses out, man. He was a 35% corner three-point shooter last year. It's not great. Still bottom half of the league, but 35% from the corners is passable, and he's got to take those shots. And so, didn't have a problem with the threes he took. They were catch and shoots within the flow. The finishing just has to be better. There's not a whole lot for me to say. It's like, yeah, like these shots that in the past Scottie Barnes has hit, he was totally bricking last night. I thought the 2 best sequences of Scottie Barnes' offense, some of the actually 3 or 4 of the best sequences, some of them led to passing instead of shot attempts, but were, as I talked about last segment, getting deep position early, doing your work early, getting down the floor fast, finding a mismatch, getting a cross match you can exploit, calling for the ball, and he scored in a couple of those. He scored over Derek White on one, I'm pretty sure, and the other one I want to say was maybe Josh Minot. He got a pretty easy, or it might have been Anthony Simons. He got a pretty easy early seal on and scored a shot that looked like every easy bucket he scored as a rookie, right? That sort of easy 8-foot push shot that he was money on. Like, if that can be a thing he can lean back into, wonderful. I do think there's going to be a lot of inside-out stuff with Scottie Barnes this year, and I think it can work. Talked about the playmaking that comes from that, but he's got to be able to score on those possessions as well. Otherwise, teams are not going to care to send multiple bodies. They'll say, okay, Scottie, you go to work. We'll be happy. We're going to live with you taking an 8-footer that you're going to brick as opposed to sending extra help. I think it's going to be a long time till that scouting report changes, but if it keeps up like it has in the preseason, maybe that becomes a reality sooner than we think. Again, I just don't think he's going to shoot this badly once we get into the season. And I do think, like, if you're looking for a saving grace with Scottie Barnes, everything else seems to be there right now. The playmaking, there was some beautiful dishes he made last night. Again, drawing 2 to the ball, quickly making a read, getting the offense flowing out of that. The beautiful baseline wraparound lefty pass to a cutting RJ Barrett when he saw a couple guys driving in from the left side. That was really cool to see. Like, it's it's going to be there. There were a couple of would-be assists to Jakob when he got nice paint touches, drove powerfully, got to the spot, saw help, laid it down to Poeltl, and Poeltl just missed shots that if it wasn't his first game of the season, he's probably hitting at like a 75% clip. That's unfortunate. There's a couple of missed assists there. The rebounding's there. The defense is there. Like all of the other elements of Scottie Barnes's across the board impact are there. It's, again, all going to fall flat if he's shooting 20% from the field. I would be stunned if he shoots 20% from the field this season, because it means, again, he is the worst player in the history of basketball to take shots at a high volume in the NBA. I just don't think Scottie Barnes is the worst player in the history of basketball. Open to eating all kinds of crow if I end up being wrong and he shoots 20% this season. Do not think that's going to happen. It's been unsustainably bad. Again, they still have to figure out where he's going to get his spots within the starters. In the first section of the game where the starters got waxed, he did not really affect the game very much at all. He had that missed three, and I think that was his only shot attempt. Wasn't a huge factor in the action. I think we saw them incorporate him a little bit more as the game progressed with the starters. Again, that inside-out stuff, running a little bit pick and roll here and there. You know, to the point that Joe Wolfond made on last week's show, I do want to see a lot more of Scottie Barnes, Jakob pick and roll, just to have the shooting dotted around them, the movement you can have off of that, and again, the sort of difficulty that is, you know, the properly switching that action that other teams are probably going to have. It's a little harder to switch that and get the matchups you want than it is when you're maybe doing Ingram Barnes pick and roll with similarly sized guys guarding them. Obviously, teams play around with who's guarding their centers to try to work around this, and you make your adjustments as you go along. But I wouldn't mind seeing some of that, in a higher volume as well. Look, it's again work in progress time. It's the preseason. It's not all doom and gloom. The sky is not totally falling yet, but he's just got to make shots. Like there is no two ways about it. He's got to make shots. He's got to, in a situation where he has Derek White guarding him in transition, don't just like dance around and try to put up a layup off glass. Just cram it on the dude's head. You're 6'9". You're strong as hell. You've done this in the past. You've shown a propensity for cramming on dudes' heads. Just go and do that. Again, I think it's there. But yeah, it's, if this continues into the regular season, it'll get harder and harder each day to come out and here say, it's all fine, man. It's all fine. I still think it's all fine. But yeah, it's a work in progress. There's no doubt about it. And look, I don't think you can go into this season expecting Scottie Barnes to be some sort of offensive maven, right? Like he's not going to be someone who puts up 25 a game. That's just not who he is. I also don't think that is the prerequisite for him being an impactful player who's worthy of the 25% max, who's worthy of being the 32nd highest paid player in the NBA as it stands right now. I feel like there's a perception that like, wow, he's paid like a number one guy. He's paid like the 32nd highest paid player in the league now before all the new contracts over the course of the life of his contract that just started are signed. I don't think he's paid to be this thing that people want to ascribe to him. That said, he's making the 25% max. He's got to shoot better than 20%. No doubt about it. You can't have your percentage of the max that you're earning be higher than the percentage that you're shooting from the field. That would be probably a first in NBA history, I would guess, if that happens over the course of a full season. It's not gonna, but that would be wild. And it's got to be better. But yeah, I just like, there's a lot he brings defensively. He's an excellent rebounder. And maybe this is like pulling the stuff that doesn't matter. Oh, he's so good at rebounding. It's like saying a guy who doesn't do much is a good cutter. But like, no, rebounding matters. It's part of the defense he brings to the table. He's a great playmaker, an incredible passer, a great connective passer who I think is only going to be weaponized more within this offense. And we saw some of that last night. Better than 20%. It's got to be there, though. 26.8 true shooting is not going to be good enough. He'll get there, but it's a work in progress. And the Raptors got to figure out a way to optimize his touches, optimize the looks he's getting, make it easier for him. And there's some burden upon him as well. It can't just be, well, the coach has got to figure it out. No, like Scottie's just got to figure out how to finish again. And maybe that comes with time. Maybe that just is rust shaking off, all that stuff. We'll see. 26.8 true shooting, though. Rough stuff, man. We're going to come back on the other side and get into the good, the bad, and the from this game, including some stuff I really am intrigued by when it comes to three-point volume. We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting. But if you're getting your home ready to have people over, you might need some stuff. It feels like a lot. You got to refresh things. People have been there before. You want new stuff for them to see or sit in or whatever. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh. Maybe your guest room could use new bedding or some new, decor, whatever it might be. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for everything in every room in the house. What makes it easy is that you can personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection of every style and every budget. Delivery is easy and it's free. That's a fantastic thing as well. You get everything you need without the huge hassle of huge delivery fees. Don't you love that? You also don't have to go to the store and load stuff into your car. That's much better as well. Look, you can fit your budget. You can do whatever you want styles-wise. If you want to go more expensive, you want to go cheaper, you can find ways to do it with Wayfair. All kinds of options. Get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, baby. The NBA is back next week, and nothing beats sitting in the arena for those opening games. Let's be real. It's really hard to find tickets without it being a total headache, unless you're using Game Time, of course, because they cut out all the mess. No queues, no surprise fees, no prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer your team on. Game Time helps you do all that without all the hassle. It's a lovely thing. The app gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast and stress-free. I buy tickets all the time on Game Time. I bought tickets for Raptors Rockets for the over-unders champion from last season, Graham, who's going to the game next week or 2 weeks from now against the Rockets, because Game Time, I'll maybe find good, affordable tickets to send him. It's awesome. I do it for baseball. I do it for, I will be doing it for the PWHL and the WNBA, although I'd have my season tickets for the WNBA, which I'm very excited about. But if you don't have season tickets, you just want to go to an individual game for a tempo game next year, you can go find them on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Down the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Wrapping things up here on your Thursday edition of the show. Coming up tomorrow on Friday, we've got Joey Cash, Joseph Kashara from The Score for our annual Bold Predictions episode. Can't wait for that one. Always tons of fun. We always get stuff sort of right and then also hilariously wrong. We're good, usually like one each that we are pretty close on, one that we're like meh, and one that is like the dumbest thing we've ever said. So you have that to look forward to tomorrow. We also have our over-unders special next Tuesday, dropping with Vivek Jacob and Sahal Abdi. I believe the 9th annual over-unders contest. I've yet to win still. It's going to happen, baby. This is the year. This is the year. Okay. Time for the good, the bad, and the a thing I liked, thing I didn't like, thing that's got me a little intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors basketball. The way we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Raptors basketball game. The good, the pillar guys plus bench guys. Brandon Ingram plus 3 or 4 bench guys. Scottie Barnes plus 3 or 4 bench guys, particularly Scottie playing with Mamu. The space that Mamu provides Scottie to just kind of like plunge into the paint, draw help, and do his thing. I like it. Look, the starters, I think, again, there's stuff to like there. They're going to refine their offense together. I'm sure they'll tighten up things on defense a little bit just as they improve their communication and learn each other a little bit more. But like the strength of this team, as I've said all along, is going to be that they can play effective lineups across 48 minutes where they can, where other teams are throwing out hodgepodge second units. The Raptors are going to be able to have 2 or 3 of their pretty good starters alongside really well-fitting second unit guys and just have that carry them through games and build advantages and hold leads and build leads perhaps. Like, I think that's going to be the strength. Ingram looks super comfortable playing with Jacoby Walter and Mamu and Jamal Shed. And, when Ochai Abaji's out there, those two guys have some pretty good connection as well. Ochai looked really good last night. Scottie playing with Mamu, like I said, put those two dudes together in the front court. I think they're going to have a lot of fun on offense just because of the space it provides for Scottie to just go do his thing. So, yeah, I'm into it, man. I think Quickley fits into a lot of those looks. Barrett and Ingram have a pretty good combination so far. Poeltl, I think, with Ingram, with Scottie, we've seen that can all work. The good is the pillars plus a couple bench guys. I feel very good about what this team's going to be able to do during transitional minutes where the starters are not on the floor together. And that's going to be, 30, 33 minutes a night where those guys are, not playing together, and they're scrambling it up and rolling out the Yahtzee cup with two starters and a bunch of guys off the bench. I'm into it. I think they're going to be able to find a lot of fun lineup combinations. It's been one of the things that I thought about the team coming in that's been confirmed by the preseason, I think. The bad. Look, we talked about Scottie Barnes at length. That was probably the bad from this one. His shooting is not good. I'm going to just kind of veer off and do some good old classic Boston Celtics hate. I think the Celtics are going to be bad. I know Jason Tatum's talking like he's going to come back and like he's a marvel of science, and hey, all power to him. If he can make it back, incredible. I'll believe it when I see it after an Achilles injury. And I also don't think the team is necessarily going to be all that salvageable by the time he does come back. I know they're the Celtics. Joe Mazzulla's a maniac. They try real hard, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm sorry. All the Celtics media propaganda is not going to convince me that a front court rotation of Neemias Queta, Chris Boucher, and Luka Garza is going to do anything but lose a lot of basketball games. I just don't see it. Yes, Boucher has had a nice preseason. It's the preseason, and we've seen the ups and downs of Chris Boucher, particularly his defensive deficiencies. And when he's asked to start, that's going to be bad. Like, I mean, we saw last night too. Like, this is just going to be a fragile team until Jason Tatum gets back, if and when that even takes place. Like, Jaylen Brown goes down with a hamstring injury. By the way, hamstrings, that's not a great thing to have a week before the season. All the best to Jaylen Brown. But I think it highlights the fragility of a team that kind of has three guys you trust in Brown and White and I guess Peyton Pritchard, maybe Anfernee Simons, though I'm not terribly impressed by Anfernee Simons and his ability to affect winning basketball. Like, I just think this team is going to realize real quick, oh, you cannot survive the regular season with two guys as your main dudes. Like, it's just not the way the league works anymore. You have to have depth. You have to have a bunch of guys who can play. And I just don't think the Celtics have that. And so, yeah, Jason Tatum might come back in February. I think the Celtics will be very bad by then. I love Derek White. Derek White taking 23 shots a night like he did last night is probably not going to end terribly well over the course of 82 games. He's a very good player. He's not a number one option. And so I'm planting the flag. The Celtics are not even making the play-in. They're going to be the 11th or 12th seed in the East. And I think they're going to be fine with that. I think they're going to realize, come to God a little bit and say, okay, you know what? Let's add a high pick to this team going to next year when Tatum's back at full steam. And then we can really do some work extending the Tatum window. I just don't see them fighting and scraping to be the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference, because I think that's all they'll get to if Tatum comes back, because I think this team is going to lose a hell of a lot of games once the games start to matter. And that Boucher, Garza, Queta front court, I mean, Queta tries so hard. Yeah, sure, man. There's not a whole lot of offensive craft to his game. And if he's your best big man, I think you're in some trouble. Anyway, let's get to the And for me, look, preseason, not a terribly predictive exercise typically, but I do think what you can glean from preseason sometimes is play style intentions, right? We've seen this going back to the 2017-18 Raptors, where it's like, we're going to change the way we play. We're going to play this way, and then it's going to be the way we play throughout the entire season, and it's stuck. And that's happened with recent Raptors iterations. I know the Nick Nurse teams, I thought this very much happened with. Even the Darko teams the last 2 years, they played into the preseason the way they intended to play in the regular season. Now, they didn't play very well. They didn't have great results, but the style of play upheld from the preseason to the regular season. And I think we're probably going to see that here with the Raptors as well. And the thing that's got me interested is the Raptors, through 5 preseason games, have taken 42 threes a game in the preseason. That's encouraging. That is like a normal team volume of threes. That's 12th in the NBA in the preseason. And last year, that would have ranked 3rd in the NBA in threes attempted per game. I would imagine threes are elevated in the preseason just because dudes are out there gunning a little bit. But, that 42 a game, that would have ranked 3rd in the league last year, tied with the Bulls. The preseason last year, the Raptors took 34.8 threes a game. That's a lot fewer threes. And it was the exact number of threes they took in the regular season last year as well. That's a fun fact. 34.8 threes attempted in the preseason last year, 34.8 threes attempted in the regular season. Again, the predictive thing from preseason is the intended play style of a team. Year before that, they took 35.3 threes a game in the preseason, 33.1 in the regular season, so they dropped off a little bit. But I do think 42 threes a game in the preseason, that is encouraging. That is like, again, normal team volume. You're getting Brandon Ingram taking 6 threes a game. That's great. RJ Barrett's been taking and making them and being eager to do it. Immanuel Quickley took 8 threes last night in 30 minutes. Probably could have taken 2 or 3 more if he didn't just pass him up and overpass him in some situations. You're not having Scottie Barnes take 11 threes. That's nice. He's taking a couple here and there. But you have guys up the bench. Mamu's been high volume. He's not been super effective or accurate. I think that's going to come around. Historically, he's been a pretty solid shooter. You've got Abaji and Dick, who's been letting it rip, and Jakob Walter's eager to take threes. They have guys who are good at threes, who are trying to take threes, and that's going to lead to normal 3-point volume, which is a beautiful thing. Something we haven't seen in these parts in quite some time. That's my That's the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow with bold predictions with Joey Cash. Cannot wait. Super fun episode. One of my favorites of the year. And we'll send you off into the weekend after that for the final preseason game tomorrow night against the Nets. I'm sure everyone will be playing, and it will be very serious basketball. Either way, thank you as always for supporting the show. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. Really would love to see you become part of our listener family as the season begins in earnest next week. And again, RSVP form in the description of the podcast as well for the Last Supper Books watch party next week in Hamilton, 148 James Street North. Would love to see you. 7 p.m. Wednesday. Come on out. We would love to. I'd love to hang and chat and talk ball and all that good stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Bank, baby.